There, I'm with the wonderful Vic Verma, and I would love to pick your brain. Thank you for joining me on this podcast.
Thank you,
I'm
Christine.
excited for people to watch because you have a mass wealth of knowledge with your experiences in tech and just in the business sector and in life. So I want to ask, what do you do? And then after that, I would love to ask you some other questions. So, what do you do?
Yeah, well, the vast experience is, I guess, a series of mistakes that hopefully I can help people not to make going forward. So I'm on a bunch of boards. I'm actually executive chair on 5 boards, and I also sit on an additional 2 boards plus one advisory board, so all tech. One public, probably 5 or so PEs, and a couple of ventures. So yeah, it keeps me busy.
Wow. So you've been, I mean, correct me, over 30 years within the industry of experience. What
Mhm.
about it makes your heart sing about it? What makes you like get up in the morning and get excited?
People. Amazing group of people over the years, right? So you're right, 30 years of experience, which is kind of scary because it tells you a little bit about my age. But over the course of time, I think I came into the workforce right around 1990 timeframe. I think right around the time dinosaurs still roamed. But uh, I've been fortunate to be with a lot of different people, most of whom I've kept in touch with. I think one of my early employees I still work with, who's been working with me for 30 years. But again, as I said, a whole host of people, smart, driven, capable, creative, energetic. To me, that's been the greatest fun of my career.
I agree with you on that. So, out of, throughout your career, throughout just life, what has one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? It could be monetary, it could be time, energy.
I think you'll see the same common theme. I think investing in people, listening to them, giving them essentially an environment where they can call you an idiot. I think you remember at 8x8, we used to have every month our new hire orientation where our new employees would all present to management, and their idea was to come up with an idea. And they had already been in the company for maybe 1 or 2 weeks at most, and tell executive management one idea of something that the executive team was doing wrong or the company was doing wrong. And if you remember, video came out of it, right? For several of us, we were very fixated on voice and chat. And then there were a whole bunch of young folks that joined us that said video is the future. And I'm so glad we invested in video early on. So again, I think the thing I've found consistently is if you take the time to invest in people, get to know them, kind of understand their hopes, dreams, ambitions, try to fuel their creative fire, create an environment where it's safe for them to push and argue and disagree, that investment will pay off in spades. It may not pay off immediately, but it will definitely pay off.
Yeah, I admire that. I think it's really important to understand like just people's thought process and the way they think because I believe that like the smallest idea could be make a big difference. So to your point, video,
Mm-hmm.
especially if we think about like communications, contact center, just emergency communicate, like video helps so much when it's with visuals and stuff. So I do remember that. I do remember that. And it was at your house and there were groups. It was definitely a great group project. I
Yep.
do again. Honestly, it could be not a quarterly. I feel like that's a little bit too much, but like an annual thing would be awesome for companies to take on,
If you
especially.
remember, we were doing it monthly. We were doing it for
Yeah.
every
Oh
new
yeah.
hire. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
but it was, as I said, we found it hugely worthwhile because also it inculcated the values of the company. People had an opportunity to interact with senior executives, and we were about 1,700 people at that time.
Yeah.
So, as I said, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life.
So how has failure or parent failure set you up later for success? Or and do you have a favorite failure of yours?
No, I don't have a favorite failure. One that scarred me forever, but it set me up for success. I actually gave this as a commencement speech at the Florida Institute of Technology. When I was a young undergraduate, I was well on my way to a 4.0 GPA, and I took a class. I took, I think, a lot of credits one particular quarter, and I was trying to almost balance each out to make sure I got an A in everything.
Mhm.
And there was this one class on electromagnetic field theory, which was difficult, but I did very well in the midterm. And I thought I was well on, course for an A. So then what I did is I balanced it out and I started to spend more time on other subjects, and I essentially coasted. And when the final grades came out, I got a C in that class. And I remember the professor taking me aside because I was in shock. And he was like, look, he says, it was clear to me you were coasting and you were clearly just doing this for the grade as opposed to the knowledge. And he said, I wanted to teach you a lesson. And no amount of begging and pleading caused him to change the grade. So I graduated Florida Tech with all A's and a C. And so that failure, in a way, kind of fueled me, which is don't try to game the system.
Yeah.
Do the very best you can.
Yeah.
If the goal is to learn, learn. If the goal is to achieve, achieve. Don't just try to literally game the system. And so I think that lesson was learned at the age of 19 or 20. I think it impacted me for the rest of my life, which is give everything you got and the results will be the results, but you got to give it everything you got.
I had a similar situation. It wasn't a C, it was maybe a lower letter, but I've to this day, it's the only low like letter grade that I've ever received ever. And I think it was the only time that I've ever cried uh during school. I was
Yep.
like,
Yeah,
just
no, hey,
like, oh,
I remember that those are traumatic. Those are traumatic,
mhm.
but it's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
an amazing, amazing professor, and what a lesson to teach. And the impact, as I said, I'm 59 years old today, and that impact I still feel.
Yeah. So to expound on that, what's one way your work, uh, the things that you've done changed someone's life that you didn't expect?
I take great pride in the fact that, in several of the companies I've been associated with, we've had liquidity events and we watched people make a meaningful return such that they were able to change their life. I take great pride in the fact that a lot of the people that work for me are now CEOs or at very senior levels, and that matters to me. And several of them reach out from time to thank me. I think there were a lot of employees that out of the first company I was involved with, which was Savi Technology, from
Yeah.
the return they got when we sold Savi Technology to Lockheed Martin, they were able to buy their first house in the Bay Area. We're talking about in the 2006 timeframe. And so that impacted their life. And in turn, that is something I feel a lot of satisfaction for, because look, as leaders, your
Yeah.
job is multifold. You have to take care of your stakeholders, you have to take care of your shareholders, you have to take care of your employees, you have to take care of your customers.
Yeah.
And different people have different hopes and dreams, and your job is to help them realize them. And to me, a lot of my satisfaction comes from making a difference in people's lives.
I think that's huge in terms of just creating more leaders. I think there needs to be more of it, right? More again, um, I think that you need to have like the grit to lead, right? The motivation, the discipline to lead. But it's just amazing how the people that worked for you have achieved that because CEOs, that's not an easy like career path. I mean, again, I shouldn't say easy. It's rewarding, but it takes a lot of discipline, grit. I mean, all of the above to get there, and that's a big deal. I think that's a huge deal. So that's
Yeah, look, it takes all of that. It takes luck. And, as you said, for those of us who were fortunate enough to have that role, it's a highly stressful role. But at the
mhm,
same time, it's a hugely rewarding role because you have the impact of making a difference
yeah,
and you have the ability to lead people. But again, it comes with a huge responsibility. And so you have to make sure that at all times you never lose sight of what is your responsibility. You need to take care of your shareholders. You need to take care of your customers. You need to take care of your employees. And you need to constantly be focused on trying to do that.
I'm impressed. You need a lot of energy for that. Like a CEO needs a lot of energy. So I'm impressed with that, because some days I'm like, okay, the energy, like yeah, that's impressive. So what book or books have you given most as a gift, and why? And what is 1 to 3 books that that have greatly influenced your life? This is kind of a
Yeah, that's actually so the one that influenced me, and we're stretching again all the way back to 1994, right around the time when it first came out, which is the seminal book in my mind on technology, which is Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm. And it's about how you need to make sure you get to the early majority of customers. You can't just get fixated on getting the first customer. You need to get to replicability in order to build a scalable, sustainable business. So that's always been one that I've always found very, very useful. And the second book, frankly, that I really enjoyed, and I only got exposed to it recently, is Patrick Lencioni's The Advantage, which is about organizational health and how you basically focus the company on short-term goals, and then you drive towards making sure that the entire organization focuses on 2, 3, 4 goals that only are in the 6, 9, 12-month range, and everybody's behind it. And then after that, once you finish those goals, then you go to the next. In other words, trying to do too many things has a way of basically distracting you. And there are a lot of people who believe that you need to spread your bets. But the more bets you spread, the more you're going to lose. Because I think you have to make a targeted bet and then be willing to fail fast and evolve or change. So I think those 2 books have influenced my philosophy probably the most. And then Colin and Pora's, Built to Last is another great book about how you set a big, hairy, audacious goal for a company and you build a meaningful company over multiple years. But to me, as I said, those 3 books have really influenced me.
I do appreciate when you said short-term goals, because I think a lot of time when people get into business, or just like whatever size of businesses, they overcomplicate things.
Yep.
And like growth is complicated, right? Like the complication will come. Start with
Yep.
achievable or audacious, whatever, right? But at
Yep.
least set short-term goals that that either you can hit or like you can get there fast, right? And obviously push progress, right? Push through it. But I think sometimes people overcomplicate things, and then it's like they almost like pause and can't make a decision. And
Yep.
I've again looking at like the market and stuff, I've seen like some business that you could see them be successful, but it's just like they have, I don't know, they like trip over something. But yeah, to your point, it's like focus on the immediate future, right? Or the immediate, what's in front of you, and then keep going. Growth will be, demand will be complicated, right? Demand's a good thing, but it will be complicated. But yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no. And I think go back to, I think, again, my last company, I used to have a saying, which is step by step, right?
Yeah.
I think it goes back to an old Chinese proverb, which is, I can't remember the exact phraseology, but a journey of 1,000 miles or 10,000 miles begins with a single step. And so the point is, when you do each step every day, meaningful progress every day, you keep going forward, you end up looking back and you've come a very long way. But when you just focus on the aspirational, often you lose your way and or get intimidated. So I'm a big fan of Lencioni's book of the Rally Cry, which is around a 6 to 9 month goal. Let's get everybody all focused and working towards that goal. Once you get there, then let's set the next goal. And so I think that's been one of the key influencers in the way at least I approach my work as a board member.
No, yeah, I appreciate that. So if you could, let's say that you have this big, gigantic billboard, we'll use the dome in Las Vegas, what would you put on it? Would it be a phrase? Would it be a paragraph? And it's to billions of people around the world.
Yeah, actually, we all get by with a little help from our friends. That's been a phrase I've always used. It's from a very famous Beatles song that I think Ringo Starr was the author of. And it is true for every one of us. I mean, there are a lot of people who like to take credit. There are a lot of people who believe they are the visionary or the there is no the. There is always we. And so to a large degree, wherever you are, there's always a group of people around you that helped you get there. And so to me, that phrase is something all of us should know, that we all get by with a little help from our friends. So it's a great way of looking at the world and recognizing that you shouldn't take yourself too seriously, because you rarely succeed and or fail alone. You get by with your team and your friends, and you make a difference.
So speaking about people, what is one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
I'm trying to think of, I think just my constant passion towards winning. And I think by that I mean you don't have to I think you never should just do something for the sake of doing something. You always need to constantly focus on trying to achieve an end objective. And so for me, it's never been about journey is the reward is the reward. And so I think wherever I get involved, I think most people are surprised how, despite the fact that I've been around for 30 years, nothing changes. For me, every day is about bringing a level of energy and passion towards whatever I do, because if I take on something, I have an obligation to the people I'm around to do the very best I can. And just existing is never good enough. So I think people sometimes are surprised about, I think, my focus towards driving towards an end result, no matter the circumstance.
Yeah. So what are some bad recommendations in that you hear in your professional or area of expertise, that you hear that have, like, I don't know if it's often, but what are some that you've heard that are bad, or could have some edits to it, could be modified a bit?
Uh, I mean, that's a great question, and I need to reflect on that a little bit. But I think people get. I do believe, and you'll keep hearing me say the same thing. People matter. People make companies, and sometimes people will put up with toxicity or people that don't share your values and do it because you're like, I absolutely need this person, and oh, I can't do anything about it. And you'll be surprised. It really is about the team.
Mhm.
And so I think I've always believed that in the end, teams win, individuals invariably lose. And so if you always have people that are not operating to the core values of the company or the culture of the company over time, I think it is time to move on. You need to constantly have a consistency in the way you're approaching the world. That doesn't mean that you stifle creativity, you stifle dissent. You want all of that, but you want everybody to have the same shared values and the same shared goals. And
Mhm.
so, again, as I said, you have to constantly have a belief that every day you go to work, you're making things better for your employees, for your shareholders, and for your customers. And that single-minded focus needs to be part and parcel of any organization. And people who don't embody that, you need to basically part ways with, because maybe it's the wrong environment for them.
Yeah, no. Well, with that being said, what's been your most memorable moment so far throughout your career?
Several. Look, as a young man, I think I was 30 or 31, being able to sell, the company to Texas Instruments was a phenomenal accomplishment. A few years later, being able to buy it back with some amazing investors, was one I remember. I remember the sale to Lockheed Martin, again, and the impact it had on a lot of our employees
Yeah.
back in 2006 in 8x8.
Mhm.
As you know, we grew from 100 million to 500 million in revenue, and we more than doubled our stock price. Ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange was very memorable. Some of the companies I've now been involved with, working with some amazing people. So, it's a whole tapestry of memorable moments. I think giving a commencement speech at Florida Tech was a memorable moment. Giving a talk to the engineering team over at the University of Michigan about all the mistakes I've made in my life and things to avoid was a memorable moment. So I guess if I were to kind of sum it up, and this is a rambling answer, so I apologize, being around great people and making a difference and helping them realize some of their dreams and passions has been memorable for me. This is, again, I'm focused all on business, from a personal level, getting married. So yeah, no, they're all memorable moments.
No, again, like there's so many things that happen in your life that, yeah, like spark joy, spark perseverance, perseverance, and just like, I don't know, just like a little bit of moxie, because it's like you in life, specifically sales, right? You can be like up business, it's up and down, right? It's a relationship itself. I have a question for you. When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, so let's say do like a business sale, right? Or have lost your focus temporarily. What do you do? Are there things that you tell yourself? Because I know when I'm in sales, or if I need to get this huge project or the grand opening for an office, and I have so many different variables to like keep on track or keep track of, basically, how do you refocus your energy or your focus?
Yeah, so two things. I mean, look, from a physical activity point of view, I love playing tennis and I love playing pickleball. I mean, that's when
Mm-hmm.
I stopped thinking.
Mm-hmm.
With regard to if I'm ever overwhelmed, I always, and again, I'm dating myself, I always like to pull out a pen and paper and try to prioritize. And I have one philosophy that constantly runs through my head every time I'm doing this. And it's the same thing I mentioned earlier, step by step.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing I need to do today?
Mm-hmm.
What's the next most important thing after that? What's the third most important thing after that? Step by step by step.
I appreciate the pickleball reference. I had a pickleball tournament for my birthday.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
that was fun. Did I win? No, but it was definitely fun. It was definitely a good time. So, yeah.
Pickleball is the great equalizer because you can be a newbie or you can be a pro and you can play on the same court. And it really is a lot of fun. And so it's an amazing sport. I still am a tennis purist, so I play pickleball and I play tennis. But yeah, it's been always a great enjoyment for me.
So, last question: where can people find out more about you?
I mean, look, I'm on LinkedIn. You can Google me, but I think probably LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to me. And as I said, if I can help you, I'm happy to help you. Uh, Again, as I said, I feel like I'm now at that interesting stage in my life where I have no kids. I am good at what I do, and I have wisdom caused by a series of screw ups over the course of my career, which hopefully I can help people not to make the same mistakes. And as I said, step by step, we all get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, and I will see you again.
I look forward to it, Christine.